Jayanila Premadhana Karuna Prachu Jayanila Premadhana Karuna Prachu Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Charya Thakur Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Charya Thakur Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahadasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahadasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviraj Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviraj Eka Kalikota Gila Goranata Raj Eka Kalikota Gila Goranatha Raj Pashane Kutibo Mata Anane Pasibo Mata Anane Pasibo Pashane kutibo mata anale pashibo. Goranga gunera nidhi kota gele pabo. Goranga gunera nidhi kota gele pabo. Se sabba sangira sange je koila bilas. Se sabba sangira sange je koila bilas. Se sangana paya kande narotamadas. Se sangana paya kande narotamadas. Translation: He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatt and Gopal Bhatt? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So today is the disappearance of Srila Jayadev Goswami, and we can read something about him before we start the Bhagavatam class. So this is the Samadhi book. That's what it says about Srila Jayadev Goswami. 300 years before the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Jayadev Goswami served as the court pundit of Sri Lakshman Sen, king of Bengal. So he was a prime minister of a great king, and that king actually really appreciated his Vaishnava bhajans and him overall. I've heard that, okay. Jayadev and Padmavati, this is the name of his wife, she was an expert dancer. They used to worship Lord Sri Krishna with single-minded devotion. After some time, he left the opulent royal life to live peacefully in a grass hut in Champahati, Navadvip. And this is where Jayadev wrote the Gita Govinda. What do you say, poetry? Gita Govinda. This is very famous. We actually recite this, one of these songs from this book daily. Dasavata Stotra, we glorify Nrsingadev. So it's included in Gita Govinda. It says here, one day while working on Gita Govinda, Jayadev felt inspired to write, Krishna bows down to touch the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. So Jayadev was hesitant to say something which might diminish Lord Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gita Govinda is a compilation of songs which is very intimate. It's dealing with Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, especially pastimes with the gopis and Srimati Radharani. And I've heard that last year actually, His Holiness Bhadranath Maharaj was doing a presentation on Jayadev Goswami, and he was given a taste of these pastimes. There's a short story there where Srimati Radharani, she pouts at Krishna, and Krishna, he offers obeisances and he bows down, and he also gives his crown and even the flute to her. And she was she was looking aside to Lalita actually and thinking whether I should forgive Krishna or not. So it's a little taste of what this Gita Govinda, what pastimes are being described here. So he went to refresh himself with the Ganges bath, continuing to read, before honoring Radha Madhava's Mahaprasadam, and in his absence Krishna himself, disguised as Jayadev, so Krishna himself came, and he wrote a line in the Gita Govinda, Dehi pada palavam udaram. The Lord also accepted prasadam from Padmavati. Upon returning, Jayadev was astonished to see the line, understanding that the mystery, Jayadev cried in spiritual joy and said, Padmavati, we are most fortunate. Shri Krishna himself has written the line, Dehi pada palavam udaram, and taken prasadam from your hand. So Krishna himself appeared and he wrote this line, and then Padmavati offered prasadam. She thought it was Jayadev, but actually it was Krishna disguising himself, and he accepted prasadam from her. Gita Govinda expresses the intense feelings of separation that Sri Radhika felt before the rasa dance. It also describes the most intimate pastimes of Radha Shyama Sundar. During the Lord Chaitanya's Gambhira Leela in Jagannath Puri, he would thoroughly relish hearing the Gita Govinda sung daily by Swarup Damodar and Mukunda. In Anti Leela, it is described about these episodes when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Puri. One day he was looking at Lord Jagannath in the temple, and Lord Jagannath appeared to be personally Sri Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized this, and he was feeling absorbed in great attraction to Lord Jagannath. And then devotees, they took him from the temple, and sometime later Mahaprabhu was feeling ecstasy. He was in ecstatic mood, and Swarup Damodar were singing along with Ramananda Rai. They were singing, specifically Swarup Damodar was singing this Gita Govinda, different songs from there, and Ramananda Rai was reciting different suitable verses to enhance the mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling. It says here that this is Anti Leela. Let me see, it's chapter 15, called Transcendental Madness of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would request Swarup Damodar to sing different songs from this Gita Govinda. At some point he was saying, sing a song to bring consciousness to my heart. So for the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar began very sweetly singing the following verse from the Gita Govinda, and he recited this verse. This is sang by Srimati Radharani. Here in the arena of the rasa dance, I remember Krishna, who's always fond of joking and performing pastimes. And so when this was recited by Swarup Damodar Goswami, Mahaprabhu got up and began dancing in ecstatic love. So this just goes on to show how much appreciation Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had for this work of Jayadev Goswami. And like it says here, that it expresses the intense feelings of separation that Shri Radhika felt before the rasa dance. And Mahaprabhu was also experiencing when he would hear it. And this is how the author Jayadev Goswami describes Gita Govinda. This is what he says. Whatever is delightful in varieties of music, whatever is graceful in fine strains of poetry, and whatever is exquisite in the sweet art of love, let the happy and wise learn from the songs of Jayadev. After finishing Gita Govinda, Jayadev visited Vrindavan and then lived his last days in Jagannath Puri. And what he did in Jagannath Puri, introduced singing of Gita Govinda in the temple for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. His samadhi is in the 64 samadhis area. Shri Jayadev Goswami ki jai. Some addition?
I have about a 30-second addition. First of all, I'd like to ask Ramapati, this is the singing of the songs from the Gita Govinda, but that would be accompanied by the dancers, right? That's what do they call those dancers? Devi Dasis or something? Yeah, yeah. I think they discontinued that now. Yeah? Yeah, or is it still going on? Anyway. And then that verse, I remember when I first read it, I think I was working on ISKCON at that time. The little verse from the song, I remember Krishna joking here. Rase hadamiha vihita vilasam smanati manoma makata padihasam. Very easy to memorize. I'll drill you on it later. Chanting that one line again and again, and he was in ecstasy.
Bol, Boli Prabhu Kahena Bara Bara. This is Antilila 1590. Over and over again, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, go on, sing, sing, sing. But Swarup Damodar, seeing the Lord's fatigue, did not resume singing. When the devotees heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say, go on singing, they all gathered around him and began to chant the holy name of Hari in unison. Hare Krishna. So, yeah, great song of Jayadev Goswami. Let's continue. Let's continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have a verse to cover, 9:45. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so 9th canto, Liberation, chapter 9, text 45. Chapter 9 is called Dynasty of Amshuman. Okay. Devai Kama Varo Dato Mahyam Tribhuvaneshwarai Na Vrine Tam Aham Kamam Bhuta Bhavana Bhavana Devai Kama Varo Dato Mahyam Tribhuvaneshwarai Navrinyatamaham Kamam Bhuta Bhavana Bhavana Devai Kama Varo Dato Mahyam Tribhuvaneshwarai Navrinyatamaham Kamam Bhuta Bhavana Bhavana Devai Kama Varo Dato Mahyam Tribhuvaneshwarai Avrinetamaham Kamam Bhuta Bhavana Bhavana Tribhuvaneshwarai Bhavana Bhavana Ayam Tribhuvaneshwarai Anyone online? Devai by the demigods. Kamavaraha, the benediction to have whatever he wanted. Dataha was given. Mahyam unto me. Tribhuvaneshwarai by the demigods, the protectors of the three worlds, who can do whatever they like within this material world. Navrine did not accept. Tam, that. Aham, I. Kamam, everything desirable within this material world. Bhuta Bhavana Bhavana, being fully absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore not interested in anything material. Translation: the demigods, the directors of the three worlds, wanted to give me whatever benediction I desired. I did not want their benedictions. However, because I'm interested in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created everything in this material world, I am more interested in the Supreme Personality of Godhead than in all material benedictions. Perfect. A devotee is always transcendentally situated. Param drishtva nivartate. One who has seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no longer interested in material sense enjoyment. Material sense enjoyment. Even such an exalted devotee as Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest for the sake of material benefit. But when he actually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he refused to accept any material benediction. He said, Svamin kritartasmi varam nayache. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22.42. My dear Lord, I am fully satisfied with whatever you have given me or not given me. I have nothing to ask from you, for I am fully satisfied to be engaged in your service. This is the mentality of a pure devotee, who does not want anything material or spiritual from the Personality of Godhead. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore called Krishna Bhavanamrita Sangha, the association of persons who are simply satisfied in thoughts of Krishna. Being absorbed in thoughts of Krishna is neither expensive nor troublesome. Krishna says, Man mana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Bhagavad Gita 1865. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, offer obeisances and worship me. Anyone can always think of Krishna without difficulties or obstacles. This is called Krishna Bhavanamrita. One who is absorbed in Krishna Bhavanamrita has no material benefits to ask from Krishna. Instead, such a person prays to the Lord for the benediction of being able to spread the glories all over the world, His glories all over the world. Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhakti Rahoti Kitve. A Krishna conscious person does not even want to stop his cycle of birth and death. He simply prays, I may take birth as you like, but my only prayer is that I may be engaged in your service. End of the purport, text 45. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Sapadantikam Vanchakopatrubhishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shrinivari Prashtata Deshatarine. This is the pastime of Khaṭvāṅga, Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga. And actually, it's interesting, sometimes we come across text in the Srimad Bhagavatam where we see that this is no one speaking here. This is just the thought process of a devotee. Like here, Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga is thinking. He's thinking that nothing is dearer to me than the Brahmanas in the beginning. And then I did not find anything more substantial than the Supreme Personality of Godhead at any stage of my life, including my childhood. This was most important to me. And here he says that although I've been blessed by the devotees, by the demigods, to ask for anything I want, but I'm not interested. I do not want any benedictions. I am more interested in the Supreme Personality of Godhead than any material benedictions. And the next text will tell us why he's not interested. Just shortly I'll say it to connect it with this text. He says that the demigods, they have advantage. They live in the higher planetary systems, but even their minds and senses are agitated, and they cannot elevate themselves to the position of realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What to speak of ordinary beings, such as myself. Of course, Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga is not an ordinary being. In the previous commentary, Srila Prabhupada said that. He said, of course, this consciousness is not for the ordinary person, but if one takes to the path of devotional service as prescribed in the nectar of devotion, he can be trained in this consciousness and attain perfect understanding of Krishna. So Shukadeva Goswami in the second canto, first chapter, he was remembering this pastime of Khaṭvāṅga Maharaj when he was saying that what's the use of a prolonged life? Better to live a moment in full consciousness. And then he remembered the pastime of Mahārāja Khaṭvāṅga. Varam muhurtam viditam. This moment of full consciousness is much more beneficial for someone who is aspiring for it or who is experiencing it, because it gives a start in searching after the supreme interest. This will be the beginning in the supreme interest. So Srila Prabhupada says one should therefore utilize one's life in glorifying the Lord by all means without offenses. So we should be dedicated to this mission of spreading Krishna consciousness to ourselves and other people. We should be alert to this prime duty of our life. And as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the Madhurya Kadambini, I hope I'll have time to look at it at some point in this class, but he says, take this golden medallion of Bhakti, which is shining brightly by the fire of steady practice, into your heart. So Bhakti is like a medallion, and if you take it in your heart, it's shining so brightly by the fire of Nishta Bhajana Kriya, by steady practice, which in future leads to Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. So steady devotional service is our aspiration. It's very important to achieve that. Narayana Parayana Sudurlabha Prashantatma. It makes one very peaceful if we practice steady devotional activities. When Srila Prabhupada was visiting Hawaii in 1976, he was given instructions to devotees. Pujan Prabhu remembers, he says that Hawaii is the land of fun, sun, and surf. And Srila Prabhupada was preaching in Maya's kingdom. But he was pointing out the same principles as he would everywhere, Srila Prabhupada. And he said something important. He said that our success is the accomplishment of our mission, and if we maintain our devotion. So to accomplish our mission is the first thing, in spreading Krishna consciousness, and the second thing is to maintain our devotion. spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the world and to our own heart. And Hawaii is known as a place of strong enjoying spirit. And Srila Prabhupada was also emphasizing that in his classes when he would speak lectures on the Jamal pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam. And one time he said actually that that this material world is not possible for enjoyment, but if it was possible, it would be in Hawaii. So, and just a few instructions he gave to the devotees while being there. He spent some time in Hawaii in 1976. It says, we must change the platform from material desires to no-material desires by simply desiring to serve Krishna. And what's needed for that is our own desire to be determined to Narayana or to Krishna. The whole process is to drag the mind from material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord by chanting the holy name. And in this way we see the example in this commentaries. Srila Prabhupada gives an example of Dhruva Maharaj. As we know, he went to get material benefit to the forest, but then his whole mood and consciousness was transformed. Actually, before his consciousness was transformed, he had received the blessings of his mother, Suniti, who told him, I can't really help you much. You have to go to Krishna. His kindness is immeasurable. Combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings. When everyone else fails to mitigate one's misery, Krishna is able to help his devotee. So she told him, place the lotus feet of Krishna in your heart and always engage in service to him. Another example of that came to my mind is Narada Muni. When he was traveling, he was a sannyasi, like a 5-year-old sannyasi. And Srila Prabhupada said that such wandering without external shelter increases one's dependence on Krishna. So Narada Muni was wandering, and because he had no shelter externally, he only could choose to have shelter of Krishna. And at some point he sat down in the shade of a peepal tree and meditated on the Super Soul. And he was feeling, his mind was transformed and he was experiencing transcendental love. Every part of his body was enlivened with these feelings. And the senses were fully awakened to render service to the Lord. And there's no really comparison how a devotee is feeling at certain times when he is receiving mercy from Krishna, especially here on the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can't really compare it to anything of material world. So, yeah, so he received the darshan of the Lord, but then he went away. And Narada tried to see him again with great eagerness, but he couldn't, despite any of the efforts. There's no mechanical process that lets us see the Lord. It's complete mercy that we experience. And Srila Prabhupada hints at why Narada wasn't able to get more of darshan of the Lord in that life is because he was covered, to some degree, he was covered by the mode of goodness. And Krishna is doing that, of course, also for the reason of increasing his hankering. He wanted to help him. And in this pastime, we'll learn that seeing the Lord means being engaged in the service, because the service and Krishna are identical, Srila Prabhupada points out. So by intense service to the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. I wanted to take a look at one purport here, the 6th chapter, 1st canto, text 26, conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. It says, thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. And so here Srila Prabhupada speaks about the seriousness and eagerness of a disciple. engaged in this devotional activities. It says in the purport, the life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is thus explained in a nutshell by Narada Muni, by his personal example. Narada Muni's teaching by personal example, with that eagerness and determination. Such a devotee, after his initiation by the Lord or his bona fide representative, takes very seriously chanting of the glories of the Lord and traveling all over the world, that others may also hear the glories of the Lord. Such devotees have no desire for material gain. They are conducted by one single desire, to go back to Godhead. This is the serious mood of a sincere and determined disciple. And because they have the highest aim of life, going back to Godhead, they are never envious of anyone, nor are they proud of being eligible to go back to Godhead. They're just too busy being engaged in service and spreading the mission. Their only business is to chant and remember the holy name, fame and pastimes of the Lord, and according to personal capacity to distribute the message for others' welfare without motive or of material gain. So we not necessarily need to become a big guru and accept a lot of disciples. We can spread Krishna consciousness according to our capacity. Of course, it's good if we can become a guru, but we have personal capacity, personal maybe limitations. So according to that, we can still endeavor. And Bhagavad Gita explains that a sadhu is someone who is constantly, despite all the difficulties and problems, despite all the fails, he continuously is engaged in bhajan or bhakti, is engaged in devotional activities, engaged in preaching. Also, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 1865 or 934. He gives these wonderful components of surrender to Krishna. Man, mana, bhava, mad bhakto, madhyaji, mam namaskru. The 4 components that are necessary is to think of Krishna, become a devotee of Krishna, worship Krishna, and offer obeisances to Krishna. This is a very supreme instruction. And we can do that by chanting Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada explains, by preaching what Krishna says, preaching to the world, and also by becoming an exemplary devotee to expand the mercy of Lord Gauranga, by becoming a spiritual master. And I wanted to bring up a few things from Madhuri Kadambini, but I don't know if I have time for that, so I'll just conclude with a small experience I had about chanting during this trip to Phoenix when we went with Bhakti Matthias. We stopped in Yuma and distributed books there, and also went to Phoenix or Chandler and stopped at the temple for all the programs except one of His Holiness Ramapad Swami. And I remember I approached him once after lecture when he was very precisely and clearly speaking about the glories of the holy name, how that's our most important shelter. And he emphasized that because it was a japa retreat. Why do we chant Sankalpa and things like that? So I approached him and I said, well, this is obvious that we need to take shelter of the holy name, but why can we do that? Why is it so difficult for us to take shelter of the holy name? Taking that golden medallion of bhakti in the heart. And he simply said to me that because we ourselves are very complicated, we have complicated minds. Growing up in the Western world, we have a tendency to be deviated, practicing bhakti, but with a semblance, with a weak faith. And so, therefore, Anishta Bhajana Kriya is a challenge. Anishta Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivritti, is a challenging period of a devotee's life. Usually takes some years to go through it by the mercy of one's Guru and the Vaishnavas. But although it's challenging, still there is a chance to experience sweetness of the holy name and of Krishna if we are sincere and determined to follow what is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. It said strength grows in unity and in weakness is minimized. So if we get strength by uniting in this process of devotional service, especially kirtan, then the weaknesses that we have will be minimized. Hare Krishna, thank you for your attention. Maybe you'd like to discuss something or comment, questions, commentaries, questions?
I don't know if I should point this out, but when you're reading through Prabhupada's books, and or you're reading on your screen there, especially this is, I think you're reading from the database, right? Or something like that. So they've given the reference that when you're reading, don't read anything in the brackets, only in the parentheses. The brackets are put in there by the. That's why we have two references for this verse, 1865. Yeah. Then you read the rest, and it's 934, right?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So the translation is 934, but it's the old one, which omits the little phrase. We may give and take. Become my devotee, which is kind of the most important part. So the actual translation: engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisance to me and worship me. That's the actual translation from 934. So when you're reading it like that.
I should just read from the book next time.
That may be a good idea. But the book probably also omitted it too. But also this other point. Here he has this meditation actually, right? In other words, this is his thinking. This is all thinking of Khaṭvāṅga, as you pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he left. He was fighting with the demigods. He asked them how long. They went with benediction. The only benediction I ask is, please tell me how long I have to live. And he told them, a muhurta. The moment includes all of this thinking, right? Before he went back to.
Yeah.
That moment is a 48-minute muhurta.
Yeah, in this moment he was able to go home on a plane and then. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I was thinking about this. You said about Narada Muni being a sannyasi. I typically think of Narada Muni as a brahmachari, but I guess it makes sense. He wasn't exactly under a guru or in a gurukula or anything, so I guess, he's living more like a sannyasi, I guess, huh? Do we ever see it? I don't know why I ever thought of him as a brahmachari in the first place. Do we ever see him referred to as a brahmachari or sannyasi? Because sannyasi makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I guess you could say not like modern sannyasi, wasn't given sannyas exactly, but do we ever see him described as any of those things? Or does he, I guess, Muni, he's a Muni, but...
Parivrajaka Acharya, that's what Srila Prabhupada would say in the commentaries.
Acharya,
yeah. But, maybe Dravida Prabhu.
Yeah, just something noted.
Devarshi Muni.
I guess, how would we, we could maybe easily argue that he's not really any of them, but if you were to call him a brahmachari, it seems like that might be less accurate than a sannyasi, because he's not under a guru, he's not in a gurukula, he's traveling mendicant. Yeah. So, in that sense, even like at the beginning when he's traveling, I would have thought that would have made him, now looking at it now, I never really thought about it before, that it looks like more like a sannyasi. And I guess Dvijamani Prabhu mentions Parivrajaka Acharya. Srila Prabhupada describes him as Parivrajaka Acharya, so I guess that's significant.
Prabhupada does talk about him as purport. When he's discussing Narada Muni and his travels, he's talking about sannyasi a lot.
Okay, so Balaram Prabhu mentions that while Srila Prabhupada's talking about Narada Muni and his travels in that whole part of his life, that he is talking about sannyas a lot in there. So okay.
Purports, like the principle of sannyas and traveling.
Okay, so that's just something that I guess I hadn't thought about. In my head, I thought him as a brahmachari, but this makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. This is what I guess is emphasized in the school, right? Sannyas school. You go over that pastime closely.
No, I don't think I don't remember.
Also, we can consider that brahmacharya usually involves, mostly like studying and serving, and Narada is mostly engaged in preaching and teaching. And so, at least from that, not that everything has to be, in a clean, like a, box or something, but at least from that perspective also, that not exactly, doesn't look like much like a brahmacharya when you consider that too. He's not really in a learning phase, he's in a sharing phase.
In the giving phase, yeah. Anything online, maybe, today? Okay, thank you for your attention once again. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.